Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. It's been a while since we discussed the Plait and the Assemblage Point. I have several episodes where I have explored these principles, including the Plait meditation, all the reality transurfing episodes, including the episode on finding and moving the assemblage point. Now, I know these words sound confusing, and if you had never caught those, it may be hard to understand. So let's return to this topic. I believe this is the secret to reality creation. I have done my best to index and create a documented study of the various techniques and ways that you can shift through different realities. We've talked about quantum jumping. We've talked about reality transurfing, meditation practices, breathing techniques, using the subconscious mind. But one of the most fascinating is the Plait, as it was originally introduced by Vadim, Zeland, and the assemblage point, and the way these things interrelate. I have been experimenting with this for years. I continue to learn more and more about it, and it works. This is a powerful way to instantaneously shift into the reality of your choice. Carlos Castaneda and Vadim Zeland, two iconic authors of the 20th and 21st centuries, respectively, both bring forward metaphysical concepts that they claim can alter our perception and experience of reality. In Castaneda's writings, the assemblage point is an energetic center which determines our perception of the world. For Zeland, the Plait is a tool in the realm of transurfing that manipulates one's reality. At first glance, these ideas seem distinct, but when explored further, one finds intriguing overlaps. Carlos Castaneda, an anthropologist and author, described the assemblage point in his series of books chronicling his apprenticeship with the Yaqui shaman Don Juan Matus. The assemblage point, according to Castaneda, is an energetic point located in the luminous energy field surrounding a human being. Its position, usually fixed in most individuals, determines our perceptions, feelings, and thoughts. By shifting this point, one can supposedly experience different realities. For example, the assemblage point's position in the daily waking state is different from where it resides during dreams. For shamans and seers, the ability to deliberately move this point allowed them to access alternate perceptions or realms. Vadim Zeland, who mentions Castaneda in his book, and Toltec writings, who wrote the book Reality Transurfing, introduces the concept of the Plait. In this metaphysical system, the Plait, or Plait, which is also a braid. When I first heard about this, I had not heard that word, but it is a term used for a braid, like you'd have in the back of your hair. And it's sort of an energetic thread at the back of one's head. By manipulating it, individuals can change the course of their lives or surf through different realities. The Plait is said to connect a person with the space of variations, the quantum field, an infinite field of possible events and outcomes. By directing attention and intention through the Plait, one can select preferable realities. For those who wish to experiment with these ideas, Castaneda suggests that intense experiences, awareness practices, or certain shamanic exercises can shift the assemblage point. Deliberate movement requires focus, intent, and energy. Zeland, on the other hand, offers a more systematic approach for the Plait. Visualization, heightened awareness, and managing one's energy or pendulums, external forces vying for our attention, can influence the Plait and, by extension, one's reality. If we are to assume that both the assemblage point and the Plait are real constructs, and I believe they are experientially in my life, which is really the only way that we can confirm this, is experientially, just like using our imaginations, shifting them would bring about profound changes. The world as we know it might appear different. Our relationships might change in quality and nature, and opportunities we never imagined could emerge. In both systems, there is a presupposition that there is no fixed or absolute reality. Instead, our perception, intention, and energy can tune us into different frequencies or channels of existence. That's the model that I utilize more and more often, that there is no fixed or absolute reality, that there is a fluid channel of reality constantly changing based upon your intention and energetic movement. The Assemblage Point and the Plait, through originating from different cultural and philosophical backgrounds, both offer a profound insight that really is malleable. While one must approach such concepts with a blend of openness and skepticism, they do provide tools for introspection and potential personal transformation. Whether or not one believes in their existence, the core lesson remains valuable. Our perception, beliefs, and intentions play a crucial role in shaping our reality. By becoming more aware of these internal processes, we can gain greater agency over our lives. Now, Carlos Castaneda's concept of the assemblage point is detailed and specific with his writings, but the idea that there is an energetic center or point that influences human perception and reality is not entirely new. While Castaneda presented it in a particular framework influenced by his reported experiences with Don Juan Matus, a shaman, similar ideas can be found in other cultural and spiritual traditions. First of all, chakras in Hindu traditions. In Hindu spiritual practices, particularly in the traditions of yoga and tantra, there is a concept of chakras or energy centers, and these chakras are said to influence different aspects of human life and consciousness. While not identical to the assemblage point, they represent a system where shifts in energy or focus can influence perception and experience. And I'll talk about those a little bit more in a second. There's also the pillar in Kabbalah. The Kabbalistic tree of life is a symbolic representation of the human and cosmic experience. The central pillar, or the middle pillar, is especially important and is sometimes associated with the balance of energies and a direct path to higher consciousness. Again, while not a direct analog to the assemblage point, the principle of a central point or axis influencing consciousness is present. There's also the Shen in traditional Chinese medicine. In traditional Chinese medicine and Taoist practices, the spirit, or Shen, resides in the heart and is one of the three treasures, Jing, Qi, and Shen. When the Shen is disturbed, it affects perception, consciousness, and overall health. It's a focal point of consciousness and energy in the system. The axis mundi in world mythology is another concept where there is a connection between heaven and earth found in this central point, from the Yggdrasil tree in Norse mythology to the world tree in various indigenous cultures. This idea of a central axis, while more cosmic than individual, still suggests a pivotal point of connection and perception. There's also the silver cord in astral projection, which to me is the same specific idea. In many esoteric traditions that discuss astral projection or out-of-body experiences, there's mention of a silver cord that connects the astral body to the physical body. This cord is sometimes described as being anchored at a specific point in the energy body, reminiscent in some ways of Castaneda's assemblage point and Zeland's Plait. And while these concepts aren't exact replicas of the assemblage point, they share a common theme, the idea that there's a central point or axis. When understood, aligned, or manipulated, can drastically influence our perception, consciousness, and connection to the world or cosmos. It's essential to understand that Castaneda presented the assemblage point in a unique context shaped by his own experiences and interpretations, yet the broader idea that humans have central energetic or perceptual points exists in multiple traditions, suggesting a universal quest to understand the nature of consciousness and its relation to the tangible and unseen worlds. The idea that humans possess a central energetic or perceptual point is a recurring theme across various cultures. They often serve as interfaces between the individual and broader cosmos, acting as a mediator between the tangible and intangible. Now, the chakra system basically is saying that there's 7 energy centers instead of just this assemblage point. What I'm saying is each of the chakras move into the assemblage point. So to understand, imagine that the assemblage point is behind your head, between your shoulders, somewhere in the area between your shoulders. Sometimes you can feel it along your neck, but most of the time it's between the shoulders. The plait is an energetic braid that goes all the way to the area between your shoulders, and the point of the plait is where the assemblage point is. This place is actually outside of your body, and the way it's located, imagine all the energy centers kind of focusing in on this one area behind your body. Everything exists as both wave and particle. When we look at a quantum particle and observe it, it becomes a particle. But when we analyze it after it's not been observed, it becomes a wave. The portion that is behind us, in that area behind our back, is the wave. We can't see it. We can't look at it. It's constantly there. So there's this little portal that's right behind your back that is in a wave form state. And that state is a focal point of energy. Now there's energetic points across traditions and everywhere. You start with the root chakra, situated at the base of the spine, and it represents our foundation and feeling of being grounded. It's linked to survival instincts and our sense of safety. The sacral is located just below the navel. It connects the emotions, sexuality, and creativity. The solar plexus, positioned in the upper abdomen, it corresponds with self-worth, self-confidence, will, self-esteem. The heart, found in the center of the chest, deals with love, joy, inner peace. The throat chakra is situated in the throat. It governs communication and truth. The third eye, positioned on the forehead between the eyes, relates to intuition, imagination, and wisdom. And then the crown, located at the top of the head, represents spiritual connection and enlightenment. And in my study and research, I've found when all my chakras are open, flowing, and balanced, then I have a greater amount of energy to manipulate and utilize the assemblage point. I believe that they are all very much related. But it's interesting, there is the bindu chakra, which to me is the plait. The bindu chakra, the plait from Vadim Zeland's teachings, and the assemblage point are each intriguing and energetic concepts from different sources. The bindu chakra is often referred to as the point or dot in various yogic and tantric traditions. Located at the back of the head, just above where the skull ends, it is said to be the point from which nectar, amrita, drips. This nectar, when retained, can grant spiritual vision, but when lost can lead to aging and death. Bindu is seen as a crucial energetic point that serves as a gateway to deeper spiritual experiences. Its location at the back of the head is traditionally related to visions, celestial sounds, and deeper states of meditation. The plait, as we have previously discussed, is that same energetic formation located at the back of one's head. By manipulating it, individuals are said to be able to surf different realities and change the course of events in their lives. Then there's the assemblage point, which we've talked about before, and its default position is right where, if you were to take an energetic cord from the bindu to the back, it would be right between your shoulder blades. All three concepts emphasize an energetic point located in or around the physical body. The bindu and the plait in particular are both located at the back of the head, making them especially comparable in terms of physical positioning. My idea is that they are the same thing. They just called it something different. Both the assemblage point and the Plait speak directly to the idea that manipulating these points, one's perception or experience of reality can be altered. The bindu, while not typically described as a point of manipulation in the same sense, still serves as a gateway to altered states of consciousness when accessed. Each of these points serves as a gateway or portal when they are discussed. The bindu allows access to deep states. The assemblage determines the reality. The Plait is a tool to connect with various realities. They're all the same thing. So I find it very interesting that I see these commonalities in different writings, different traditions. We are not talking about it enough. I can scroll through YouTube videos of people talking about reality creation techniques, and very few people are mentioning this concept. You do hear Joe Dispenza mention that we need to go into the quantum field in order to manipulate and change and experience different realities. The quantum field is right there at its perfect wave state, right behind you, in a place where nothing is observing it. Others may be observing it, but you are not observing this area, so it is more elastic and fluid and can be changed. Let's understand the rules of the assemblage point. At the physical, emotional, atomic, and quantum levels, a human being is an independent oscillating energy field. All oscillating energy fields, by virtue of the fact that they are oscillating, must have an epicenter or vortex of the rotation. Any energy field that you observe in science has a vortex. The epicenter of the human energy field is this assemblage point. The location and entry angle of the assemblage point with respect to the physical body dictates the shape and distribution of the human energy, as does disease, according to John Whale in his book The Catalyst of Power, The Assemblage Point of Man. The shape and distribution of the human energy field are directly proportional to the biological energy and activity of the organs and glands in the physical body and the quality of the emotional energy. The biological activity of the organs and glands determines the position of the assemblage point and thus the shape and distribution of biological energy throughout the physical body. The location and entry angle of the assemblage point has a direct influence over the biological activity of all the organs and glands, including the brain, and these have a direct influence on the location of the assemblage point. The location and entry angle of the assemblage point regulates how we feel and behave. Disease also dictates the assemblage point location and entry angle. For better or worse, manipulation or misappropriation of the assemblage point location and entry angle facilitates and affects the way we feel and the manner in which we behave, our state of health or disease, and our expectations of recovery from disease. Whale explains, in the womb, the fetus is assembled via the umbilical cord, and the assemblage point of the unborn child is at the navel. With birth, the cord is severed and the baby's assemblage point moves upwards from the navel to the chest area. Over the course of the first 7 years of our life, the stationary assemblage point moves up the center line from the navel and becomes situated in a predetermined position somewhere in the right chest area. Just below the navel is an aperture caused prior to birth by the umbilical cord. It is a naturally weak area in the field called the gap. Death occurs instantaneously when the assemblage point drops to below the navel, causing the body's quantum and atomic energy field to collapse, according to Whale. While the assemblage point is above the navel line, death cannot occur. Preventing the assemblage point from dropping to the gap will postpone death. The human spirit departs from the body at the precise moment at which the assemblage point traverses the navel meridian line, according to Whale. The assemblage point is the missing energy link connecting the human soul with the physical body. This connection is absent in the current Western medical model. Many of the current dilemmas and criticisms which Western medicine are now experiencing can be easily resolved with stringent application of assemblage point theory and correction procedures. Not only are the assemblage point diagnostics and correction principles applicable to mental and physical disease, but central location can also dramatically improve mental and physical efficiency. This induces stable and efficient states of well-being, which are very desirable. In the future, Whale believes greater public awareness of the assemblage point will have profound beneficial reverberations for financial, social, and political health on a global scale. So what did Carlos Castaneda say about the assemblage point? Throughout his time, Dr. Carlos Castaneda continued publishing books reporting on his apprenticeship with Don Juan, the shaman and medicine man we have mentioned earlier. Castaneda, who held a PhD in anthropology from the University of California, Los Angeles, said he met Don Juan in Arizona in the early 60s while researching medicinal plants. He followed when the shaman moved to Sonora, Mexico. Castaneda had pushed beyond using hallucinogenic plants. In the beginning of his apprenticeship, Don Juan had used power plants to loosen Carlos Castaneda's assemblage point. Don Juan claimed that Castaneda's assemblage point was so stubbornly fixed that only hallucinogenic plants had sufficient power to shift it. In his later books, Castaneda concentrates on expounding information and details of the assemblage point locations and its relationship with various altered states of consciousness. In his later books, such as The Art of Dreaming, he seems more concerned with management of the assemblage point and relating states of consciousness connected with shifts in location when dreaming. Only in his fifth book, The Fire from Within, can we find references to the medical value of the assemblage point. Although Castaneda recorded Don Juan's references concerning the medical dangers of abnormal assemblage point locations, unfortunately, it seems he failed to inquire for more details. Or perhaps Don Juan gave more details about the dangers to health than Castaneda has related to his readers. In this book, Castaneda records Don Juan talking about the assemblage point. Don Juan is reported as saying that a situation which is particularly dangerous is an involuntary shift of the assemblage point due to physical fatigue, emotional or physical exhaustion, and disease. On another occasion, Don Juan is reported as saying that people who unwittingly shift their assemblage point by taking drugs can induce a feeling of numbness and cold and have difficulty in talking and thinking as if they were frozen from inside. Don Juan also spoke extensively about the process of death and the gap at the navel. It is very clear that the character Don Juan held important medical knowledge concerning the location of the assemblage point and health. Castaneda's books are riddled with such dire warnings from the master, Don Juan. It is very clear that Don Juan knew what he was talking about. But Castaneda shrouded and embellished the master's conversation in a literary mystique. At no point throughout any of Castaneda's books does he indicate to his reader how a dropped or misaligned assemblage point should be corrected. There are many authoritative people who consider Castaneda to be a hoax. The fact is that there is an obvious truth in the words of Don Juan's knowledge of the assemblage point as Castaneda reported them. However, there is now considerable evidence, especially with respect to his seminars, training workshops, and most recent publications, that he has either fully not understood Don Juan's teachings concerning the assemblage point, or perhaps he may have deliberately misrepresented them. Now, Whale, in his diagnosis, is a little bit different in saying that you can't entirely move the assemblage point through meditation, yet Zeland teaches in accessing the Plait that you can through visualization and awareness. Castaneda taught a set of programs called tensegrity that you can access for free on YouTube. These are energetic exercises designed to move the assemblage point. It's a set of movements or exercises he claimed were passed down by generations of Toltec shamans. The term itself is a combination of tension and integrity, which was borrowed from architect Buckminster Fuller's description of a structural principle. Castaneda repurposed this term to describe practices meant to promote energetic integration of the human body. He introduces energetic reconfiguration. Tensegrity movements were designed to help practitioners redistribute and balance their energy. By doing so, they could shift the position of the assemblage point, leading to new perceptions or awareness levels. Just as in other traditions where physical postures and movements, like yoga in Hindu traditions, can affect spiritual and energetic states, tensegrity was purported to offer a direct method of moving one's assemblage point, the idea is that specific physical movements can lead to energetic shifts. You should be able to find the link to the tensegrity exercises in the description if they are still there. There's also recapitulation, which we have a couple of videos we've done recently. Now, Castaneda introduced it and involved reliving past experiences to reclaim energy lost in those moments. While it's not a movement practice like tensegrity, he claimed it played a vital role in shifting the assemblage point by freeing trapped energy or lost energy, thus making the energy field more fluid and facilitating the movement of the assemblage point. One of the reasons for practicing tensegrity was to prepare the practitioner for dreaming, another crucial aspect of Castaneda's teachings. Moving the assemblage point in the daily world through this tensegrity practice would in theory help one to navigate alternate realities or the dreaming world with more ease. In his view, modern humans have a fixed assemblage point due to societal conditioning and habitual patterns, and these practices of tensegrity and movements could introduce fluidity, allowing the assemblage point to shift more easily. This shift can lead to heightened awareness, expanded perception, and the experience of alternate realities. Before I talk a little further on the Plait, I'd like to go back to John Wales, whose book, The Catalyst of Power, The Assemblage Point of Man, goes into very scientific detail about moving the assemblage point. He's a researcher who delved into the concept of the assemblage point, similar to how Castaneda discussed it, but from a somewhat different angle. Wales' work is more aligned with the nexus of energy medicine, psychology, and shamanic traditions. He has written about the assemblage point in a manner that provides a bridge between esoteric traditions and more scientific or systematic approaches. Wales claimed that the assemblage point can be physically felt and seen by trained individuals using electronic gem lamp therapy. It's often located around the chest area, most people in a healthy state, but its exact position can vary. There's an angle from where it exists in the chest to the back, almost like you could put an arrow from that area. And then once you know the location in the chest, you can create an angle. Sometimes the assemblage point is too far to the right or the left, which can lead to depression or insanity. Its best location is within the middle of the spine, between the shoulders. There are other ways that you can locate the assemblage point. Check out my episode on finding and moving the assemblage point. But in that episode, we mentioned feeling. With training, it's believed that you can physically feel the assemblage point, you and another, as a small localized area of tenderness or a lump on the skin surface or just beneath it. Visual inspection using what they called electronic gem therapy lamps. Certain practitioners believe they can locate the assemblage point based on the skin's coloration or even by seeing the entry point. Now, he also discussed moving the assemblage point. If the assemblage point is out of its optimal position, it may be necessary to move it for better health, clarity, and well-being. In Castaneda's books, Don Juan could simply hit the right shoulder on the back of Castaneda and instantaneously move the assemblage point. It was implied that this was an advanced shamanic skill that not everybody could do, but an unexpected smack against that right shoulder can move it back to its center. According to Whale, one method involves using a brief firm pressure or even a thump with the side of a hand or using crystals. It is aimed to move the point from its current position to its optimal location. This method requires knowledge and should be approached with caution. Whale and others have utilized electronic gem therapy, which employs light and the properties of gems to influence the body's energetic structure, potentially moving the assemblage point. Whale also says that you can use sound and vibrational healing. Sound frequencies, whether from instruments like gongs or voice, can potentially influence and shift the assemblage point. And another way of moving it is through intention and visualization. Just as in Castaneda's work, focused intention and visualization, according to Whale, can play a role in relocating the assemblage point. For instance, one might meditate on the assemblage point, visualizing it moving to its desired location. According to Whale, meditation can only move it laterally left or right, and oftentimes you end up moving it to the left, and you have these incredible experiences in consciousness. And according to Whale, oftentimes this can be misleading. Because of these experiences, you believe that you're getting some sort of affirmation that you've awakened or experienced a higher level of consciousness, when in reality you've simply moved your assemblage point to the left, and it's still healthier to remain on the right. When it moves to the left over time, it can lead to depression or anxiety. So you're constantly trying to move this assemblage point. Now, the interesting idea that comes from Zeland first of all, he writes about the assemblage point at the end of the book Reality Transurfing, but then goes into more detail in the book Tufti the Priestess. In an unusual sort of channeling, he is channeling the words of Tufti the Priestess, this priestess from ancient Egyptian times. And according to Tufti, this is how you find the Plait and the way it works. Tufti explains every single one of you has an intention Plait. It is an energy plexus similar to an ordinary plait or braid. You can't see it, but you can feel it like a phantom limb, which used to be there but is not anymore. Rather than hanging straight down, it sticks out at an angle to the spine. It's a really funny kind of plait. The outer intention center is at the tip of the plait. It is a spot between the shoulders, only not flat to the spine, but a little away from it. You will find the precise spot intuitively. The exact distance is of no significance. It is enough to focus your attention on it, and you will feel where it is. So Tufti explains that first you wake up and log into your awareness point, and you can say to yourself, I see myself and I see reality. As I've used this technique more and more, it's a way of identifying yourself separated from reality as sort of the neutral observer. Then second, you activate the Plait. The first step is important because it separates you from your regular everyday consciousness. You go into a meditative state and you become the observer. And then secondly, you activate the Plait. You feel it. Here it is. As soon as you focus your attention on this area between your shoulders, it instantly rises up at an angle to your spine and is activated. And then third, without taking your attention away from this, you imagine a picture of the future. In your thoughts, in words, on the screen, as well as you can, compose your reality. Tufti explains, you may notice that when you activate the Plait, your eyes shift into a different gear. Try and feel that. You've raised your Plait. Now what happens to your eyes? They become a little wider, as if they are beginning to shine. This is a new, unfamiliar mode of being for you. Previously, you watched the outer film and surrendered yourself to it. Now you can turn the film roll independently. Tufti explains that it's like a phantom limb, that we may have actually had a physical Plait in the past. In my own mind, it's like we're sitting in med pods. Maybe we're in cryo right now in this moment, in this simulation, and there's some sort of energetic cord connected to the back of our head that is funneling us through these realities. A great comparison can be made from the movie Avatar. In the world of Avatar, the Na'vi have a specialized tendril or queue braided into their hair. This braid isn't just ornamental. It's a biological feature used to form direct neural connections with the flora and fauna of Pandora. Through this seheyu, meaning the bond or connection, they can communicate, understand, and even control certain animals. More profoundly, they can connect to the planet's neural network they call Iwa, accessing the memories and knowledge of their ancestors. I wouldn't be surprised if James Cameron knew about the Plait or the assemblage point, even on a subconscious level. It's interesting that is a fundamental focus of that movie. Check out my episode on advanced Plait training. Once we started to get this concept, we started to use these techniques and started to advance in our use of them. So here's the Plait with flow method as described by Zeland at the end of the book. First, you take an in-breath. And on the out-breath, you imagine an arrow moving at an angle away from your back. Now the plait is activated. Secondly, without letting go of the sensation of the plait, you compose a picture of your reality. At the same time, make sure that you're breathing freely. And third, without losing the sense of the plait or the arrow, you take an in-breath, and on the out-breath, you sharply send the arrow into a vertical downward position, triggering your energy flows both up and down through your spine. And staying aware of the movement of the rising and descending energy flows, you say the following thought form quietly to yourself or aloud: my intention is being realized. Then you let go of all the sensations you've been working with. Check out in Zeland's later books, What Tufti Didn't Say. He goes into detail about finding and using the plait. Some people struggle with feeling it or identifying where the plait is, and more, that is the key problem that people have. What I have found is when I use it, it works. It's like you're uploading a new film or reality that is then expressed in through your consciousness. This is the point where you can shift your reality. You can choose whatever script that you want, whatever movie that you want to exist within. And so I try to combine that with breathing techniques in quantum jumping, and I'm always aware that the beginning of this shift in consciousness is in this energy quadrant, and by identifying and using it, you can change your reality. I've also found that you can do this in bathtubs, when you are in a liquid state in the ocean or in water, that it is more powerful and fluid when you access your plait and energy braid. The assemblage point seems to be more fluid. I have also accessed this sitting in front of a fire with my back to the fire. Each time I'm using an element that allows me to explore my plait and the energy connection. I've also done this exercise sitting with my back against a tree. It feels like I'm connected to that tree when I do that, and I can gain the wisdom, knowledge, and communication of that tree by sitting with my back to the tree. What I'm wanting you to do is to experiment with this in meditation, trying to feel for this. And more as you become aware of it, you're going to have moments when you have this sudden tingling in your back. This is when your assemblage point is in a state where it can be manipulated, controlled, and moved. I do believe that physical movement and tensegrity exercises and meditation and a variety of different things should be utilized and expanded upon. I believe that you should read the book, The Catalyst of Power, to truly know what the significance of moving the assemblage point is. But if you want to create your reality and you want to know the secret behind it, the advanced secret behind it, then understand that you are utilizing this energy center. You're utilizing this plait, this assemblage point. And when you understand it, it'll give you greater control and understanding of shifting through realities. Oftentimes when we do these reality shifting exercises, the assemblage point moves naturally without even focusing on it. But I can right now feel it in my back. And when I have those moments when it comes up, I stop, I take a breath, knowing that it's activated, and I use those moments to imagine something wonderful. You're going to be walking along and suddenly you get this tinkling behind your back. That's a time for you to stop, take a moment, take a deep breath, connect into it, and throw in your imagination a reality that you want to experience. Load up a new film and a new reality will be experienced by you. In the book, What Tufti Didn't Say, there are a variety of different testimonials to this working. And I personally know of people, I've interviewed people that have utilized this technique, and I would love for you to try it and put it in the comments what you experienced, what you didn't experience, and we can explore this together as a new way of creating our own realities. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com, and welcome to The Reality Revolution.